Hi, my name is Vicki Ellis and I am the Executive Director of Heritage Ranch Christian Children's Home. Today I'm going to be sharing a tip for you guys on how to cope with the COVID crisis, especially how to create stability and structure for your kids during this really challenging time. So you, like most of us, are probably in a situation where you are working remotely from home with your kids. It's an unprecedented time and an unprecedented situation, so it's creating a lot of unique challenges. So today, the tip that I want to focus around is how to create some boundaries in your home for how you can effectively work and also connect with your kids in a healthy and productive way. If you're like most of America right now, all of a sudden you found yourself working at home and your kids are off school, and so there's a lot to be managed every day. So what we want to do is really create some structure around the schedule that we have and around the expectations that we have and that our kids have. So for myself, I can say that I am working remotely from my house, and my husband is as well. I've set up an office in our bedroom that is my work office, and he's mostly working from the kitchen table. Right now we're finding it pretty effective. The main challenge that we're having is that we have 4 kids in our home, and they're trying to figure out how do they navigate their day out of school while also trying to honor us while we're doing our work. And so the first tip I want to give you is making sure that if you're married, you're on the same page with your spouse as far as what your expectations are for your work environment and knowing what their expectations are for their work environment. It's really important that you get on the same page so that you can both be a united front to your kids and give them the same boundaries during the day. If you're a single mom or a single dad, you need to set a expectation for yourself on what you want the home to run like, and you're going to need to be really clear in telling your kids what that's going to look like. So the first thing you want to do that I would suggest that can be really, really productive, and it's actually one of my favorite parenting tips in general, not just when dealing with a crisis, is to call a family meeting. It's really, really important to brainstorm with your family, talk to your kids about what their needs are, and for you to share what your needs are. So go ahead and call a family meeting. The first thing you want to do is you want to share if there's any really clear boundaries that you're going to be setting or your spouse is going to be setting if you're married, so that your kids understand that these are things that they need to adjust to. So in our case, one of the things that I explained to my kids is that I was going to have periods of time during the workday that I was going to have Zoom meetings, or I was going to be doing conference calls, and I was going to need to know that I wasn't going to be interrupted during those times. And so what we did was we brainstormed what could we do to make that effective and what could that look like. And one of my kids came up with the idea of putting a sign on the door that says "Do not disturb." So anytime I am doing a Zoom meeting or a conference call, or I'm in the middle of something that can't be disturbed, I put "Do not disturb" up on the door. So every time my kid passes, they know that means not to come in. So then we talked about, well, there are going to be times during the day where I still need to be working, but they could come in if they had a question and they needed to ask me. And so the signal to them that the office is open is that the door is left open. So right now, if they're walking past, they see me working at my desk that I set up, but the door is open. They know that that means it's okay if they want to come give me a quick hug, they want to say hey, or they want to talk to me for a few minutes. So this has created a really clear boundary, and this is one of the things that came out of our family meeting. The next thing we talked about in our family meeting was what were their needs for during the day? How would they feel connected, but also be able to honor the boundaries that I had and the boundaries that my husband has for needing to be able to get things done. And so one of my kids suggested that we have a scheduled lunchtime. So we set aside a time every day that we would meet in the kitchen and we would eat lunch together. This makes it clear to my kids that during the morning, when they're really wanting to be with me, but they can't because I'm working, that if they wait, then they'll be able to have a lunchtime with me. So we set this out a time. It's working really well for us. The key is that you need to make sure to communicate. If you set aside 11:30 every time for lunch, but then you find out you're going to have a Zoom meeting the next day at 11:30, let your kids know. And if you're married, let your spouse know so that they can adjust and that you can create a new time. Kids thrive on structure, and they're used to that at school, right? Every day. They know which hour they're going to classes, they know when they're going to lunch. So make sure you try to create structure for them at home and what they can expect with your work. The next thing that we also did that I'm finding really effective is that we scheduled sometimes for after work that they knew they could expect to spend time with us. So now during the afternoon, when it feels like things are kind of droning on, they're wanting to connect with us, but we're busy doing the things that we have to do, then they actually know, hey, we have a 6 o'clock scheduled bike ride, or we have a walk that we're doing after work, or we're gonna play a board game. So that gets them through the afternoon time knowing what they can expect. So again, I would encourage you to sit down, have a family meeting, and talk about what your boundaries are and what they're gonna need. Another thing that you really need to do is encourage them to come and talk to you if they're feeling frustrated. Let them understand that it's okay if they're feeling anxious or they're feeling hurt or upset. Just a couple of days ago, one of my kids was just really upset that they couldn't be around me. They had me working in there all day. They just wanted to spend time with me. So they came and shared that with me. And what we did is actually set up next to my desk a space where they could sit and draw and eat a snack. And I told them, as long as you can do that, there'll be set times a day that we can do that. So it was like they're able to hang out, but I was still able to do what I needed to do while they were doing what they wanted to do, and they felt connected. So make sure that you're always keeping the dialogue open. Do realize that even if they're not saying it, this is a really difficult and challenging time. And so they need to understand that it is important that you honor your work, but also that they feel like they can come and talk to you about what is going on, excuse me. So one thing I would encourage you to do is try to explain to your kids kind of how you view work in some sort of way that they can understand. A really great example to use would be their school day. Your kids, if they're school age, are used to being in school all day. And I think it's a really great thing to say to them is like, hey guys, what would it feel like if all of a sudden you knew that mom and dad were going to be coming to your classes every day? So like one day I show up at school and I just walk into your classroom and I'm going to come sit down at a desk next to you. Wouldn't that feel weird? Like all of a sudden I'm in your space and I'm there all the time and I'm going to lunch with you, and maybe you want time just to hang out with your friends, or you want to do this or that, and all of a sudden I'm in this area. And I think it gives them some sort of gauge of going, oh, that would be really weird. You're not supposed to be at school. And so they would understand. It's kind of the same thing. It's like, hey, usually I'm working and you're not supposed to be here, but I want to adjust and I want to honor you during this time. So I hope that these are tips that are helpful. The biggest thing again is just expectations and making sure that you're talking about how to balance the situation. Right now, it looks like most of us are going to be working remotely for potentially another month. And let's just be honest, that's a really long time and it's a really new environment. And so you need to know that every day things might just get a bit more stressful as people are getting restless. So be sure that, again, you're always keeping the doors of communication open and that you are giving your kids an open forum to talk to you. Another thing, and I guess my last tip would be about working from home, is just, if you're married, be really sensitive to the fact that your spouse is also experiencing stressors, and so schedule some alone time that y'all can be together, and also ask them if they need time to themselves. Someone should envision if one spouse is working remote all day in their room and the other spouse has like 4 kids or 3 kids in the other room and they're with the kids all day, it may be really, really difficult for the one spouse to keep the kids with them while they're trying to honor that the other spouse has to work. It's going to feel really like you're isolated and you're having to do everything and you're not able to get the support of your spouse, which is right there. So just make sure that if that's the situation you're in and you're the spouse that's working all day, that you're asking your husband or wife what you can do to give them some downtime at the end of the day. So again, my name is Vicki Ellis and I'm the Executive Director of Heritage Ranch Christian Children's Home. I hope these tips have been helpful to you. Please visit hrbr.org for more information about how we serve children and families.